Solving Radical Expressions by Lauren Edlin and Tess Tarazowicz. There are 4 steps to solving radical expressions. Step 1 is to isolate the radical. Step 2, raise each side to the power of the index of the radical. Step 3, solve the resulting equation. Step 4, check your answer. Now let's do some practice questions. Expression number 1. Step 1, isolate the radical. To isolate the radical, you would subtract 5 from each side. Then you are left with 4. Step 2, raise each side to the power of the radical. Since this doesn't have a radical given, the power is automatically 2. So then you would do 4 to the second power, and you end up getting 16. Step 3 would normally be solve the rest of the equation, but since this expression is already solved, there's no need for step 3 in this one. Now the last step is to check your answer. Putting 16 in as p, you would get 4 plus 5 equals 9. 9 equals 9. Since 9 equals 9, your expression is correct. Now expression number 2. First step is to isolate the radical, so you would add 2 to each side. After that, your radical would end up equaling 4. Your next step is to raise both sides to the power of the radical. Since this radical already has a power given to you, you would raise each side by 3. Your answer ends up being 64. Step 3 is solve the equation as normal. By adding 1 to both sides, you get w equals 65. Last step is to check your answer. By putting 65 in as w, you get 64 to the third power minus 2 equals 2. 4 minus 2 equals 2. Since 2 equals 2, it works. Now something a little harder. Since this expression isn't already in radical form, you would use 4 above the x plus 3 as the radical. Then your first step is to isolate the radical by subtracting 9 from each side. Once you do that, your radical is equal to negative 2. Your next step is to raise each side to the fourth power. Since the radical is already given, you would raise it by 4. Now you get 16 equals x plus 3. Step 3 is to solve the rest of the equation, so you would subtract 3 from each side. By subtracting 3 from each side, you would get x equals 13. Now to check your answer, as x equals 13. By putting 13 as x, you get 16 to the fourth power plus 9 equals 7. That then turns into 7 equals 2 plus 9. Since 7 doesn't equal 11, this expression does not work. Since the answers do not match up, the answer is it is an extraneous solution. Now let's review what we just learned. The first thing you have to do when solving radical expressions is to get the radical by itself. Step 2 is to raise both sides by the radical's power. Step 3, now you can solve the equation as normal. Step 4, the most important step, is to check your answer and make sure it works. Here are some rules to solve radical expressions. Rule number 1. If there isn't a radical given, then it is automatically a 2. If you check your answer and both your answers do not match, then it is an extraneous solution. If your expression is written like the one given, then your radical is written in the top right-hand corner.